Hello again, Dhamma friend. So let's continue study the Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment. So yesterday we finished at page 49. So we'll continue at page 50 today. So, today's topic is content overview. Finally, we reached the contents. The Sutra of Perfect Enlightenment is ranged in 12 chapters, plus a short introductory section. The introductory section describes the scene of the sermon and the list of the major participants. The location is a state of deep meditative concentration, samadhi, and the participants are the Buddha and the 100,000 great bodhisattva, among whom 12 eminent bodhisattvas act as spokesmen. Each one of the 12 gets up one by one and asks the Buddha a set of questions about doctrine, practice, and enlightenment. The structure of the sutra is such that the most essential and the suddenistic discussions occur in the earlier chapters, and the more functional and gradualistic dialogues occur later. This kind of structure reflects a motif associated with the doctrine of the Huayan school or flower garland school, which affirms that the Buddha delivers the abstruse Huayan Jing or flower garland sutra as his first sermon. So after Buddha's awakening under the Buddha tree, he spent 21 days spreading the Dharma teaching of Huayan Jing or Flower Garland Sutra as his first sermon, in an effort to directly awaken those whose roots of the virtue were well matured. I give the analogy that imagine there's a sun, the star sun, shining over planet Earth. All the sunlight shining over planet Earth. So, which part of the Earth the sunlight will reach? Which part of the sunlight? Which part of the Earth the sunlight will reach first? The tip of the mountain. Makes sense? So that's why right after Buddha's awakening under the Buddha tree, he talked about Huayan Jing for 21 days as his sermon in an effort to directly awaken those whose roots of virtue were well matured. The terminology that Zhongmi and Kiwa used to describe those advanced practitioners is that they possess the capacity for the teaching of sudden enlightenment. Buddha's first or initial attempt is to awaken those with roots of virtue, sudden enlightenment, a direct awakening to the non-dual nature of reality, which necessarily precludes gradualistic, goal-oriented practice. In the first two chapters, the chapters of Manjusri and Samantabhadra, the Buddha holds very strictly to the sudden position, denying the possibility of enlightenment through gradual practice. In the third chapter, he begins to allow for a bit of gradual view, and next several chapters become a mixture of the two. The final few chapters offer a fully gradualistic perspective. So, in my understanding and my experience, you are Buddha already. If you really know the essence of who we are or who you are, you don't need we don't need gradual approaches like meditation. If you're ready, if you're with good roots of merit or virtues, you can get enlightened just in 1 second. In the history of Chan, there's only one guy, one master. His name was Huineng, got enlightened by hearing a verse from the Diamond Sutra. Only one guy in the historical, you know, in the history of Buddhism of Chan or China, there's only one master had his roots of merits or virtue. So for most of people, we need gradualistic and suddenistic approach. We can have more details when we go through all the sutras. So Kingwa's primary means the categorization of the chapters is according to the three capacities of practitioners: superior, middling, and inferior. So the truth is right here and now. It depends on your or our discovery or unpeeling of the truth. The capacity of practitioners, superior, middling, and inferior. So the approach, the way how we got enlightened depends on the capacities that we already have: superior, middling, and inferior. That's why Buddha gave we 84,000 different ways to get enlightened. It all depends on us, on our capacity. According to Kingwa, the first three chapters are aimed at those of superior capacity, the next seven for those of middling capacity, and the final two for those of inferior capacity. However, this method of categorization does not necessarily mean that the latter chapter becomes gradually easier to read and understand. In fact, some of the most difficult discussions comes in the later chapters. Most notable in this regard is the discussion of the four traces of self, person, sentient beings, and life in chapter 9. We'll get there, chapter 9. Or if you're interested, you can read chapter 9 first, since the distinction between each of those four is extremely subtle, and the wording of text itself is not that clear. That's why I'm here. No worry. This turns out to be one of the most difficult chapters to digest. Okay. The crux of chapter 1, the chapter of Manjusri. You know, Manjusri in all the Buddha sutras is always the first step Bodhisattva asked the question. Manjusri is a symbol of wisdom. Manjusri was the teacher of Buddha. So he's a symbol of wisdom. In the chapter of Manjusri is a discussion of the meaning of the term ignorance. Ignorance is the greatest obstacle in the path of awakening. Ignorance of who we are or who I am is the greatest obstacle. So, in chapter 1, in which the Buddha warns against perceiving ignorance ontologically, seeing it as a self-existent entity, he describes ignorance using the metaphor of sky flowers, 空花, or second moon. So I explained sky flowers yesterday. It's just like a patient with a cataract, the eye disease, seeing floaters. But actually, in the reality, there's no floaters. It's an illusion, right? So, in the metaphor of sky flower, Buddha is pointing the whole world we are experiencing now, what we can see, hear, touch, smell, and think, and taste, six senses, are sky flowers. Fundamentally, they are not real, comparing to the ultimate truth. Let's go on. So he describes ignorance using the metaphor of sky flowers or second moon. Second moon is the moon in the water. So the moon in the water or in the lake or in the ocean are not real. Once you know it's not real, you don't have attachment or resistance to the moon. So this to the moon in the water because you know it's unreal. Same thing applies to the world. We can perceive, hear, listen, smell, touch, and think. The whole world is a second moon comparing to the ultimate reality. So flowers, he described ignorance using the metaphor of sky flowers or a second moon. Flowers one mistakenly perceives in the sky due to an optical malady such as cataracts. This perception of sky flowers is compared to the perception of cyclic existence, life and death, samsara, by unenlightened people. Unenlightened people see a world of birth and death, a cyclic existence, and it's wrong. It's like sky flowers is not real. When the visual malady is corrected, the sky flowers disappear spontaneously. When you got enlightened, you see a world in a total different way. There is no point in trying to gradually remove sky flowers from the sky. The nature of this ignorance is also compared to the situation of a person who is temporarily disoriented in terms of the four cardinal directions. There is no intentative blockage to be overcome. It is merely a state of mistaken perception. And all the person has to do is to realize the east is east and the west is west. In this kind of situation, there's no system of practice that needs to be installed. One merely needs to see things as they are. There's no birth, there's no death, there's no nirvana, there's no suffering. If we really know all our perceived worlds are sky flowers, they're not fundamentally real, then you are free from all the illusions. That's a suddenistic approach. You just need to know it. One merely needs to see things as they are. That's Manjushri, the symbol, the Bodhisattva of Wisdom. Since in his answer to Manjushri, the Buddha has asserted that human body and mind and all of samsara are nothing but illusory sky flowers. The Bodhisattva Sambhattabhadra in the second chapter has to ask how. If all things are illusion, one is supposed to remedy illusion using illusion. In other words, if everything is illusion, how it is possible to even practice? And if people become discouraged by such a prognosis and do not practice, how can they possibly escape illusion? The Buddha begins his reply by hinting for the first time that there is something else besides illusion, that when illusion is erased, the unchanging mind, the unchanging illuminous mind, open mind, pure mind. So, Buddha begins his reply by hinting for the first time that there is something else beside illusion, that when illusion is erased, like unpure onion, the unchanging mind does not disappear. He then approves the possibility of using illusion to remedy illusion by instructing his listeners how to separate themselves from illusion, comparing this practice to the rubbing together of two sticks to produce fire. The sticks, illusion, ignite, and both burn up and disappear. When they are gone, there is still awareness. He nonetheless concludes this lesson by clearly stating there's no such thing as gradual practice. So the gradual practice is using illusion to erase illusion. That's called gradual practice. Gradual practice is for the people with middling or inferior capacity, as we mentioned before. And suddenistic approach is for people with superior capacity. The truth is always one, but practitioners may have different capacity. The third chapter, that of the Bodhisattva Universal Version, is the longest and probably the best known of the chapters, as it even circulated by itself as a separate text for study in Korean Song monasteries. Universal Vision asked the Buddha to relax his insistence on the sudden view and compassionately offer some expedient method for the sentient beings to practice, especially for the sentient beings with middling and inferior capacities to practice. More specifically, he asks, how could we think and abide? In such words, what sort of mental cultivation or contemplation should be carried out? The Buddha's response is a long, guided meditation starting with an early Indian Buddhist analysis of the body and mind as defiled and baseless, followed by consciousness only, or Huayan exercise in visualization of interpenetration. He finishes with a chance characteristic exercise in non-abiding. So if you remember, I talked about the sixth patriarch Huineng. He got enlightened by listening to a verse in Diamond Sutra. 因你无所住而生其心. So our awareness should not abide on any phenomena object, non-abiding on the object we can perceive, we can hear, we can smell, we can taste, we can touch, and we can think. Non-abiding to all the phenomena objects from the six senses, especially the thought, memory, feelings, emotions. That's one object in mental activity. Non-abiding to any objects from six sensory inputs. Actually, that's the first layer of non-abiding, first layer of understanding of the non-abiding. The second layer, the deeper layer of understanding of non-abiding is all the phenomena objects, what we can see, hear, smell, touch, taste, and think, cannot be abided, is non-abidable, is inabidable. 因以无所住而生其心, because everything moves, changes so fast. You cannot abide your attention on anything that is fleeting so fast. Is non-abidable, is inabidable. A deeper meaning of non-abiding. 因以无所住而生其心. Master Huineng got enlightened just by listening to this verse of Diamond Sutra. Now I can totally understand why Master Huineng got enlightened. It's the key to the enlightenment. Something is like open monitoring. You are open monitoring all sensory inputs as an image, sound, a touchable table, an object, a body sensation, a taste, a smell, and a thought or memory. You're open monitoring, but you're not feed your attention on any of the object. That's called non-abiding. That's called open monitoring. You don't attach to, you don't resist to, you don't judge. You don't interfere with any phenomenon. Open monitoring. You're truly in a free zone. You're a free man. Your awareness that includes everything, but don't resist, judge, or attach to anything. You are like a container that holds everything, but don't interfere with everything in it. Infinite big and infinite small vase or container. Our consciousness is like that. And you got enlightened. Congratulations. So you see, non-abiding is so important. So in Zen Buddhism, we say non-abiding, non-thinking, and then soundlessness, thoughtlessness, thoughtlessness, signlessness, and non-abiding. We use negation to talk about the ultimate truth. That's the best way. Negate, 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 until you have nothing to negate. Boom, you are there. The truths are really there. Unpeel, 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 unpeel. Oh, the core of onion. You are that. And we are talking about it. It's very funny. The object is talking about the subject is talking about object, but the object is the subject, and the subject is the object. That's the oneness. That's the non-dual. It's a very weird thing in the world. The most weird thing. The most paradoxical thing in the world is you, it's me, it's everybody. So funny. Okay, the introduction in the prior three chapters of the paradoxical coexistence of the doctrine of the original enlightenment and original ignorance causes Vajragarbha Bodhisattva in the fourth chapter to question how these seemingly contradictory positions are simultaneously possible. It's really mind-blowing, mind-bending. Sometimes, in my past awakening, my mind was bent so hard, I cannot bear it anymore. So I just let it go. Furthermore, Vajragarbha Bodhisattva asks, if ignorance is once failed, is it possible for it to re-arise? Wow, that's a good question. I said again, Vajra Bodhisattva asks, if ignorance is once quelled or seized, is it possible for it to re-arise? The Buddha begins his answer by once again reiterating his fundamental non-dualistic stance. Non-duality, non-dual, that's all. Everything is one, and one manifested in everything. That's called non-dual. You are all, and all are you. 一即一切，一切即一. So one is all and all is one. I will modify it a bit. You are all and all are you, or all is you. It is by nature impossible for a disturbed samsaric mind to find its way out of a condition. He provides some metaphors of disorientation caused by relative motion, such as the tendency for a person in a boat to perceive the shore as in motion, or the mistaken feeling of the motion of the moon when clouds are passing by. He also retailed the sky flower simile in terms of impossibility of the sky to actually be the cause of the sky flower. No matter the clouds are there or not, sky is always there. You cannot see sky because of the clouds. Make sense? But no matter the clouds are there or not there, the sky is always sky. It's always there. So the whole awakening is just to remove the mental clouds. And furthermore, Buddha said, the mental clouds are illusion, so you don't need to remove it. You just recognize it's unreal. That's called suddenistic. You don't meditate to move your mental activity. No. You just notice all the mental activity is unreal, comparing to the ultimate truth. And furthermore, our mental activity, the singly samsaric and disturbed mind, is the manifestation of the ultimate truth. The heavy clouds is the manifestation of the sky. Crazy. Crazy, right? I know. Okay, let's go a little bit more and we'll finish. But the most important simile in this chapter 4 is that the purifying golden ore, the gold, a symbol for enlightenment, is already contained in the ore, originally enlightenment. It is not something that newly created by the smelting. Make sense? Nonetheless, once the smelting is accomplished, realization of enlightenment, gold, enlightenment, never reverts back to the condition of all ignorance. The realization of enlightenment is sentient beings. Sentient beings can be understood in the same way. The Buddha concludes the chapter with another admonishment about impossibility of meeting enlightenment through discursive or samsaric methods. That's why meditation, concentration, morality, faith, trust, devotion plays a role here. As in each of the prior chapters, the Bodhisattva in the 5th chapter, Maitreya, formulates his first question based on the conclusion of immediately prior discussion. And since the Buddha admonished Vajragarbha about the impossibility of escaping samsara while using samsaric views. See, we cannot escape samsara while using samsaric views. It's like the Einstein's statement. No problem can be solved at the same foundation where the problem is created. Make sense? I don't know the original words of Einstein, but his meaning is that no problem can be solved in the same perspective where the problem is raised. Same here is here. So impossibility of escaping samsara while using samsaric views. Wow. Maitreya asks, how do we serve the root of samsara? He also makes a more direct request for the teaching of expedient gradual methods, an indication that we are now where into the midst of the teaching for those of middling capacities. He furthermore que- queries regarding the types of distinctions that exist between the nature of sentient beings in terms of their capacity for enlightenment. The Buddha answers the first question by attributing the empowerment of samsara to the forces of attached love, attachment, time, greed, and desire, which mutually enhance each other. Desire and attached love enhance each other. In order to over samsara, it is necessary to sever those two, attached love and desire. The Buddha goes on to distinguish the capacities of the sentient beings into five natures, which are a revision of the five natures theory of Yogacara, conscious only school. He distinguishes each of these five types of people in terms of their relative degree of freedom from the two hindrances, which are called in this text the phenomenal hindrance, 视障, and the noetic hindrance, 法所执障, and which correspond to the hindrance of defilement and the hindrance by the known. 视障和所执障 of the Yogacara school, he concludes the chapter by teaching the vow of the Bodhisattva to save all sentient beings and explaining that since due to this vow, Bodhisattva must enter the world of desire. It becomes necessary for them to devise expedient method to help people. The people, on the other hand, needed to seek out a teacher who is not himself enmeshed in desire. So Bodhisattva like a media for the people to get enlightened. And the people like to shake hands with the media. The consciousness have to reach out for help, love, and truth, and shake hands with the hands of Bodhisattva, Buddha, and say, all the masters. By listening to this, we are shaking hands in our heart with all sages' teaching, with all Buddha's teaching, with all masters' teaching. So beautiful. So beautiful. So today we end here, page 52. Thank you.